I want to start this episode off by giving you a little bit of a trigger warning. If you are triggered by suicide or you lost a loved one from suicide, this might be a hard episode to hear. There's a reason why we did it, though. Betsy Cusumano is the founder of the CUS Foundation, and her organization looks to support those who are grieving somebody who lost a loved one through suicide, and her organization is wonderful. December 2nd, Dennis, Mike, myself, the Dungeons and Donations crew is raising money for this foundation. And the more that we planned, the more we thought it would be a great idea to have Betsy on to kind of talk about the foundation and a little bit about her story. I'll be honest, the story was really hard to hear. I got choked up a little bit hearing her story, but it's just a reminder of how impactful this organization is and the good work that they're doing. So I'm really excited to release this episode because Betsy has such a powerful story, and it is a powerful testament of why we decided to raise money for Betsy this year for the Dungeons and Donations event. I hope you join us December 2nd for Goblin Heist. The wonderful Mike Spuches is going to run a game for Dennis and myself as we play little goblins and try to steal things. I'm very excited. I don't know too much other than maybe the goblin I might play. And we're just going to live stream us playing Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to laugh, have a good time, all while raising money for this fantastic foundation called the CUS Foundation. I hope you join us December 2nd at 7 p.m. And if you're watching this after December 2nd, you can catch the whole live stream on the YouTube channel and you can watch the whole thing go down. Very excited to support Betsy because after you listen to this podcast, you're going to understand how tough of a human being she is. She's also extremely wonderful and nice. So without further ado, here's my friend Betsy Cusumano.
Hi, I'm Betsy Cusumano. My foundation is called the CUS Foundation. It stands for Caring for Unexpected Survivors of Suicide Loss. It's new. We just launched it in July of this past year. So we're looking to really kind of put our name out there and tell people that we're in this space now.
So you launched just in July? Mm-hmm. Okay. How long of a process was it from start to finish to creating this foundation?
I lost my husband in October of 2022. So we just had the year anniversary. And a couple weeks after he passed I had this just burning feeling. It's really hard to explain because it was almost like something out of my control. Feeling that I needed to do something in his name. I needed to do something that would be big. He was such a wonderful human being, and I just felt like he couldn't just be done. Mm-hmm. And I really grappled with what to do because suicide prevention just didn't feel right. He didn't suffer from mental illness. It's not like something that he was battling. We were completely blindsided by what happened. So, and there's so much good work in that suicide prevention field already. So that just didn't feel like that was the space that I needed to be in. Post-COVID syndrome, which is, I believe, the catalyst for my husband's passing, that didn't feel right either. I'm not a medical professional. And so I really kind of allowed myself to just kind of meditate on it and say, okay, like, what space do I need to fill? What do I need to do? And something my son had said was, Mom, suicide is really like a nuclear bomb that goes off in your family.
Wow.
How do you
How old is your son?
He's going to be 23 in February.
Wow. Very philosophical of him.
Yes. Yeah. He's a very deep thinker. And I said, yeah, you're right. And then I thought about the huge support group I have from family, friends, coworkers. They just rallied around me and the kids, like really humbling and really unbelievable. And I said, well, I think that's it. I think we need to create a community for survivors. We need to help them along their journey of healing. And we need to kind of fill that space. There's little teeny pockets of stuff happening, but I really wanted to make that something for survivors, because we're here. We're still here. And I think when someone loses someone, they tend to go to prevention. They tend to go to awareness and research. And
But there's not much for grief counseling.
but how do we? And I don't think we do grief great. And and there's always people that are left behind. So I think it's time to start taking care of those people, right? We need to take care of us. And so that's what the foundation is for.
Was the idea
survivors.
always to make some kind of foundation, just not sure which direction, or did you have other ideas other than?
I don't know. Foundation just came right to the surface. And so I started the process of building the nonprofit. I put the paperwork in. I'm all about numbers, and I'm a little weird. On my son's birthday, which was February 16th, and my daughter is the 22nd. He was turning, her birthday is the 22nd. He was turning 22. So I thought that's a great,
Yeah.
And so I filed the paperwork then. And I think in May we got our tax ID and approval and all of that. But
Okay.
I wanted to launch it on my anniversary, my wedding anniversary.
Right.
So
Which was when?
July 12th.
Oh, okay.
So then that's when I launched it. Plus I needed to build the web. There was a lot I had to do.
Yeah.
And all the resources, getting all the resources. I'm still gathering resources, right? Because I think it's a living thing. It's going to build as I go into this space and realize and meet with survivors and really research what they need, what they're struggling with, because everybody grieves in different ways, right? Everybody, their journey is very different. And so I feel like I really want to just create a community where they feel connected, they feel understood, because I think that's a really big thing. There's a lot of stigma around suicide. I think it's getting better, but there still is.
Yeah, for sure.
And it could be very isolating for people to lose someone in this way.
Yeah.
It's very traumatic. And so
traumatic, I feel like, is not a big enough word.
Nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
And so if I can create as many safe places and opportunities for people to heal, then I'm for it.
Now, what went into kind of like planning the foundation? Was it just you reading books on how to start them, or was it just like how did you educate yourself on the process?
That's a great question. I met with several people that have started nonprofits in the area, and just asked them. I had a whole bunch of questions. I'm a teacher, so I'll research it.
Yeah.
And I met with several, and I just asked them a lot of questions, and what hurdles and what obstacles, and then what has been successful for you. And I just kind of, I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I couldn't wait. I guess I could have waited, but I just couldn't wait.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also, would you say creating the foundation has kind of helped your grieving process?
Yes, and helping others heal helps me.
Yeah.
I think that's really, I'm a very empathetic person. I'm a teacher. I went into teaching for a reason, to make a difference, right?
Yeah.
And I think with this foundation, there's a higher purpose. There's a real chance to make a real difference in people's lives, and that, for me, fills me.
Yeah, and helps with the whole grieving process.
Yeah.
What kind of services does the foundation provide?
Yeah. So we expand, but right now I've met with a few survivors. I've given them care packages, meals, and I wanted to create a foundation where you can go to my website and get all the resources. If you don't want to contact me, you don't have to, because I also know that's a very difficult thing to be vulnerable enough to contact someone and say,
To like a stranger too.
yeah, say, hey,
Yeah.
what's this about? But a few haven't. I've been so grateful. And then other people have given my information to survivors, which I think is great. So if you don't want to contact me, you can go on my website and there's resources for grief counseling. There's resources for their healing journey. There's books on grief and different things. I'm a very out of the box thinker, so there's links for like Reiki healing. I sponsor restorative yoga once a month.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to be sponsoring a kickboxing once a month. Just
Yeah.
different things to get people moving and what's helped me. And so there's different links for people. There's legal and financial links. So the Social Security. There's so much. When someone passes, there's so much that you have to deal with that you are not even aware of.
I feel like no one ever talks about when someone passes away, all of like the stuff that you have to do.
The legal stuff, the financial stuff, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to organize all the resources that I can and put it under one umbrella so they can just like, here's your links. So they can never contact me and hopefully use this website to do all the things. Or they can contact me, and I've met with several, and we've chatted, and eventually I would like to be trained to have a support group, but they make you wait 2 years. So
Oh, so you have to wait 2 years? Why
from
do
the
they make you?
passing, I just think because it's a traumatic way to lose
Yeah.
someone, and I still have moments where I am asked a certain question and I get choked up and I have to give myself a second
Yeah.
to breathe and answer because the pain is very visceral.
And
it's
still fresh.
Still fresh. So I understand that. But like Hope for Bereaved has a support group, so they're on my website. It's not about competition. It's about throwing as much resources as I possibly can for people and then filling in different gaps that I feel are missing. And I'd like to, in the future, put art therapy. I'm in the process of researching that, having that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
on
what
there.
are the like 10-year goals of the foundation?
I'm hoping I'm national. I'd like it to be a national organization, and I would love a CUS center in each state where it's a place where people could go. There's restorative yoga, there's pickleball, there's like just art therapy, pet therapy, group sessions, whatever.
Just something to a resource center for people who are grieving. And do you think that's like a giant opportunity, is the fact that a lot of organizations focus on, they drop the ball in terms of like what you do after somebody passes?
I just think I don't know if they drop the ball. I just think it's so much, right? I think funds are stretched thin. I think people are, especially with suicide prevention, you want it to stop, right? So you want to prevent it and eradicate it as much as possible, but we haven't figured that out. There
It's
hasn't
hard.
been a key yet,
Yeah.
right?
It's because a lot of times these people are suffering and they don't even, there are no signs, there are nothing. I mean,
Which was and I think there's situational, there's medical, like my husband, there's mental health, there's so many reasons, and then we get focused on the why instead of like, okay, let's figure out how to help people that are here, and I think that's what's difficult in this situation, but there are so many great resources in our community. Right.
yeah.
I'm just trying to expand on those.
What is like, do you think is the biggest supporter in the community that's helped, at least helped you with their journey?
Yeah, American Foundation of Suicide Prevention has so many resources. They sent me information on a training that I just did yesterday called Safe Talk, because I figured I would like to get as much training as I possibly can. Unfortunately, there's a high suicide rate amongst survivors. So if I can get this training, like with Safe Talk or whatever it is, grief coach eventually. I'd like to do
There's a high rate of suicide with people who
among survivors.
people
have
who
lost someone
Oh
in
wow,
that way.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, the purpose is to take care of survivors so that we can eliminate those future numbers as well, right?
Yeah. Man, what a hard thing to unpack. So 10-year, you want to be all over the place, but what's
Yeah.
like short term, like next couple of years look like?
Hopefully people gaining the knowledge that I'm here, just more resources, fundraising, so that I'm able to help these survivors figure out how to best get in contact with survivors instead of them having to always reach out to me. How can I have to figure that piece out, like what is the best way to get a hold of them and reach out to them.
Yeah. And
That's a hard
is there like a group that you kind of idolize and look up to that gives you different ideas for this? Is it the American Suicide Prevention? Is that an organization?
Yeah, American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. I just research a lot, so I think I have a vision, and I try to stay with that vision, right?
Yeah, yeah. And just it's the aftermath. It's like your son with a nuclear bomb. Like that is how true is that? Because
that really resonated with me.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's like Hiroshima went off. There's people who are suffering for years and years, and that's kind of the same instance.
Yeah.
Losing someone that you're close to is not an enjoyable experience, and it's a tough road, and especially when it's, I mean, I'm talking just like passing away from old age, right? My
Right.
grandfather passed away from just being old, and that didn't feel good. I can't imagine like in your situation too, you know?
Well, yeah, and especially when you're completely blindsided by it, right? You're
Right.
living this beautiful life.
Yeah.
You're grateful every day for it, and then it just ends.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
What do you think is one of the biggest things you learned about yourself?
Well, everybody says I'm strong, but I think
That is what Dennis said. Those are the first words that he said about
Yeah.
you.
I don't know if I'm strong or if I'm just very stubborn and very strong-willed, right? So my focus will be and always has been my children, right? So they are number one. Regardless of the shattered soul that is me, their life has to be beautiful. They have to live with laughter and love, and that's important.
And how do you create that now? Like I feel like you got to put thought into it and be very
Yes.
like more conscious of it than
Yes.
ever, right?
Yeah, so I did, like Christmas, I gave them this thing called Back to Living, which eventually would like to add to my foundation. So once a month, we've done something as a family, like things that we haven't ever tried. Like we did axe throwing. And we did the Rage Room, right? I took them to Disney. You don't have to be that crazy, but I did a pickleball tournament, and they loved that. So we've just done something each month. And for my husband's anniversary, I thought it was just really important for us to kind of get away. So I took him to Lake George, and we did on his anniversary, on the day, we did one of those. Have you ever seen the railroad track bikes?
Oh yeah.
And so we did a 7-mile, because I figured get him out in nature, get him
Yeah.
exhausted.
Yeah,
you
right,
know?
right.
And I told him, I said, look for signs for dad when we're there. And we went through this one part, and the leaves all started just to fall down. And they're like, Mom, and because it was just a very weird thing. There was no wind, and we were just riding the bikes, and then all of a sudden the leaves just started fluttering down. And I said, yep, that's your sign. And then it didn't happen again.
Wow.
And we went through tons of canopies of trees. It was just this one section. The sun was shining through, and you could just, I don't know, I can't explain it. You could just feel it.
Yeah.
And it was really beautiful. It was really beautiful.
Do you have those moments still, like even not on the bike, where you're like, this is where, what was your husband's name? Tom. Where you feel like Tom is with you in some sense?
I think he's always with me.
Yeah.
Right? We were too connected.
Yeah.
He was my person.
Do you find like you see those signs everywhere, or do you just feel like he's always?
Yeah. Well, have you ever heard the saying pennies from heaven?
No.
You've never heard that?
No.
So, like, if you find change around, it's from someone
Oh.
from heaven, like pennies from heaven.
Yeah, okay.
It's an old saying.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself. So he likes to leave me change. But it's always when I'm doing something really hard. So for Christmas, I used to wrap the kids' gifts, and because I do all online shopping, please. And so I would like just pile all of them in the basement, all of the boxes in the basement, and he would come down and he would tear them apart. And so this Christmas was our our first Christmas. Last Christmas was our first Christmas without him. My daughter helped me wrap, not her gifts, I wrapped hers, but she helped me wrap the boys' gifts. And she goes upstairs, and I look, and there's just this pile of boxes in the basement. And I said, really? Thanks, Tom. Really?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm starting to break them down, and I lift up the last box, and there's just a penny sitting there. Now, I would have seen that before I put the box down.
Yeah.
There was just a penny just sitting there. And it's always when I'm doing something really hard and missing him a lot, he just puts just a change. Who has change anymore? I don't even know.
Yeah, I know.
Like, who has change? I don't
In
even
my
use
car,
cash,
maybe?
right? Like,
Yeah.
and they'll just be, I was cleaning out underneath his sink, and I grabbed his contacts, lifted one up just to make sure that it was his, and there was a penny right inside the box.
Yeah.
Like, how? Why?
Yeah. It's the strangest thing.
Yeah.
When I've dealt with death before, but I feel like when my grandfather passed away, that was like the first time it was like close to me,
Yeah.
So there was like all these moments where, like, still today, where I don't know, this is now, Grandpa's been gone like 9 years now, 8 years now, but still there's moments where like you walk by something and you're like, man, this is like, this Grandpa like he always used to love cardinals, so it's like you see a cardinal and sometimes, and that like would trigger me,
Right.
but like even 9 years later, it's like you still find stuff and you're still like, damn, I miss you,
His sister sent me a picture because she likes to, when she gets her sign, she'll send me a picture. And she was out, and she was like sitting at the bar, and she looked up, and there was Tommy something. I don't know what kind of whiskey or whatever. I'm not a drinker. So, and she took a picture, and she's like, well, I've got my sign today, just like little things like that. He's big on songs. He'll just send me a song, like it'll be some random song, and I'm like, okay, thank you.
Like, how do you get the songs?
Sometimes I'll just be playing, Apple Music on my phone, and a song that I don't even have in my playlist will pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's all these signs of. I honestly thought when I was younger it was all just like hokey, but then when you lose somebody, you're like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like like you say it and you're like, I know it sounds wild, but like, Grandpa, there was a cardinal that was perched on the screen in our kitchen, and it was like, it's hard not to be like, yeah.
Because how often do you see them?
Absolutely. Right. I think there's something to be said to, like, when somebody passed away. I found with myself, it was when I was stationary, it was like it made grief for me worse. Like it was harder to deal with rather than like if I was in motion.
Yes.
So it felt like when I was putting my energy in jiu-jitsu or something else, it kind of made it feel a little less painful. Do you feel that was kind of the same way?
Yeah, I started kickboxing a month after he passed. I was like, I have to move. I have to, punch some things, kick some things,
and get out of the house.
Yeah. Weekends are really tough, really lonely and tough.
Are your kids? How old are they?
22, 19, and two 18-year-olds.
Are they all in the house still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they all like off on
They
college
commute.
now?
Yeah, they commute back and forth and stuff.
Okay, so weekends, I mean, they're tough,
doing
but
their thing.
at least they're there too, you
Yeah,
know?
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So weekends, like, how do you try to keep your mind off things?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. There's been a lot of Hallmark mystery movies in my life at the moment. Now we've changed over to Christmas. But I try to at least make a plan for something, like to do something, but it's hard. You don't want to burden people, and my friends are like, "You're not a burden," but they have their own lives. They have their own families. They have their,
Them saying it doesn't make you not feel those feelings. Yeah.
And so it's like, so I do try to like maybe go out to dinner with someone or, a friend or something, like have something, do something with the kids, have something planned, because if not, weekends can be really long and very lonely.
And I feel like especially in being in the house is tough too. When I watched your the Spectrum News interview you did, and you were talking about how Tom loved to grill, so like I would imagine like it's tough being like out on the back and seeing the grill. Like, have you touched the grill at all?
No.
Yeah, I can't touch. Like, my grandfather was a carpenter. I feel weird touching any tools. Isn't that weird to say? Yeah, weird to say.
No.
Yeah, it's
tough.
Yeah. What do you think has been the best resource for you for grief counseling?
That's a good question. I can't say there's been one. I do see a therapist once a month. She's been wonderful. It took me a couple, though. It took me a couple to find the right fit. And not that the other people were bad. They just weren't my fit.
What made them not your fit? Because a lot of people, I think, they find a therapist and they just stay with them and they don't like interview them or try to find one that's the right fit.
I'm very self-reflective, and I know who I am. Like I know who I am, and I'm a very out of the box thinker. So I need someone that's very similar, like believe the signs and things like that. And I think that was important. I don't know. One therapist is like, "You're doing all the right things." I'm like, "Yes, I know, but I still feel like there's a 50-pound vest that I'm carrying around." So how does that lighten? Like I need it to lighten. Reiki healing actually has been one of the things that has really helped me. That's been very, very good. But again, that's really out of the box. But
I bet everybody processes and heals things differently. So I feel like as long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't see like if Reiki might be out of the box thinking, but like it's helping you grieve and getting over it. I mean, it's like, what does that matter then? You know, I think the important thing is what the end objective is, the end result. When you are going through and trying to figure out how to stay busy, like what kind of things are you trying to do to keep your mind off things? Is it just like going out to dinner with friends or?
Yeah, going out to dinner with friends. Obviously the foundation, which is a weird thing because you're submersed in the topic.
But you're putting your energy.
But you're putting your energy into helping others heal. So it's it really does help. So that's kept me obviously busy.
Yeah.
So and just the kids, making sure that they're doing okay, and that they're keeping busy, and like for Father's Day, we released butterflies. I found a website that like sends you butterflies and little packages.
That's cool.
I don't know if they're frozen. That sounds so bad, but and then you like let them, you take them out of their ice pack for like a few hours before you release them.
And they start waking up.
They start waking up, and then they really enjoyed that. That was, and
it's kind of poetic too.
Yeah, it was really And then we went mini golfing, lunch and mini golfing, just me and the kids. My oldest thought it was great because he was like, okay, how about we bet $10? We're going to bet $10. He thought he had it. He was going to win.
Yeah.
Guess who won?
You did.
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
Yes, I did.
Everybody give me $10. $40 for mom. Thank you.
I didn't take their money. I said, instead, I'm not going to take your money, but you need to say that mom is the best mini golfer in the family. Like, you need to say it. And they
Hold
were
on
like,
to your $10. You're going to buy mom lunch is what you're going to do.
So they had a lot of fun with that, It could have been a very, very, it was a hard day no matter what, but I really tried to celebrate him and honor him while grieving. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Well, I think that is the way you process grief from me hearing it at a surface level. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's kind of how you're processing this whole thing is by trying to put your energy into something else that is still related, still deals with Tom very, very closely. But how has your kids' process looked different from yours? Are your kids into Reiki and stuff?
My daughter went. The boys were like, we don't know.
Yeah. Yep. If you asked me when I was 22, I probably would have been like, no, thank you, Mom.
Right, we're like, okay, crazy lady, stop it. But they did group with me. We did a few group therapy sessions. But they were like, Mom, she says everything that you say to us, so we don't think we need it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So right now they're not in therapy, but they know if they ever want to, it's one phone call away. Mm-hmm. And they know they can tell me anything, and they talk to me all the time. So I guess I'm their mom and therapist at this point. Which I'm like, come on, guys. But, you can't force someone. You cannot force someone. So it's got to be organic for them. I think they keep themselves busy with school. They're big into movement and exercise. So they do that. And I just, keep my fingers crossed that they're processing okay. And
four different kids, 4 different ways to process.
Yeah.
Like I gotta imagine, and especially when you put kids in the equation, that makes everything so much harder. And we're not just talking like 2 kids. Like you got double the workload, sister. You got double the workload.
Yeah, but I'm very mama bear, so.
Yeah. And it sounds like you got a really good family, good support system around you too.
Really
How beneficial have they been to the whole thing?
Wonderful. I can't say enough about my family and friends. They, they would go above and beyond if anything I need, they just are absolutely wonderful. I turned my garage into an in-law apartment and moved his parents in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they live in my garage. It sounds really bad, but it's actually really beautiful.
It's actually kind of nice, right? Yeah.
And they cook dinner every night for us, and that's been amazing.
I wonder if that's also how they're grieving with the pain too, is like being around the kids and being around you and being able to contribute to the machine of the CUS family, how have they handled the whole thing? That's losing your own kid.
It's difficult. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and they're old school Italian too, so it's been a hard road.
Yeah. If there's one resource, if you had like unlimited money and you could wave a magic wand, what's one resource you would like to have? It could be maybe a building for your center.
Yes, it would definitely be a building for my center.
Yeah.
It definitely would be.
Yeah.
Because I think as I'm going through this process and I'm meeting more and more survivors, I'm realizing what's most important for them is to feel connected and to be able to relate to someone has gone through the same.
Mm-hmm. That's something I didn't even think of.
Yeah, and
right?
I think that is really huge. And without even, I just think just building that community and creating that safe space allows them to heal in and of itself. All the other stuff is extra,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like I would have a hard time trying to connect with somebody who's like helping me go through that process, who hasn't been through that the same. There's no like relation or correlation, like,
Yeah.
but maybe that's short-term thinking on my behalf. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously like you said, everybody loses someone. Losing someone in this way changes the script a little bit, right? It's just there's so many layers of emotion that go with this kind of loss that you really need to be able to connect with other people that have gone through the same.
Yeah.
Everybody's story is different on
Right.
how they've lost that person, and but the core feeling of losing someone in this manner is just so similar. And that knowing that you're just not alone in the world, and you're not isolated and on this island, and no one wants to talk about it because we don't want
It's
to talk
taboo.
about it. It's
Right.
taboo. No,
It's
we
hard.
need to talk about
Yeah.
it. It's hard, but and the people that have passed, they lived, like my husband lived 50 wonderful years. He was the best human. He needs to be remembered and celebrated for that. His ending can't be the only thing we remember.
That can't be
about
the
him.
only
That
chapter.
can't be the only chapter. All the years that he's helped people and he affected people, and someone at the wake came up to me that he works with and was like, I just have to tell you, I'm a better man because of your husband. That has to have meaning, right? And with the stigma of suicide or how people lose, we can't lose sight of we've lost someone very dear to us, and we can't be isolated for that
Yeah.
loss.
Right. And I feel like when you lose somebody to suicide, there must also be like this feeling of like almost like guilt, like what could I have done kind of thing.
Yeah, and my friends yell at me all the time for that.
Yeah. Well,
But-
and that's a different kind. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about, rather than somebody losing somebody from like cancer, or like you feel like you could have changed the course of history, but
Yeah.
you really couldn't have.
No, like logically, my mind knows there's nothing I could have done.
Yeah.
Right, like especially when my husband hit him hard, hit him fast, and we were just completely, it was blindsided. He was off for a couple of weeks, and I asked him if he was okay, and he said, "I'll be fine, Bets. I'm fine." In hindsight, should I have done something different? I don't know. I don't know what else I could have done that was different.
Yeah, but you
But
can't. That's not
right.
on you.
But your heart,
There's always a part of
it's,
you, right?
You just second guess it.
Yeah.
Is there something I could have done? And I think that's hard. That's
Yeah.
hard to live with.
Well, it's definitely nothing that you could have done different.
I know.
It's-
Logically,
and
I
it's,
know.
Yeah, it's like it's tough, right? Because
Yeah.
like I could sit here and say that, but that doesn't.
It's
that doesn't-
you
yeah.
got to convince my heart, right?
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard part. And I've never questioned the why. Why did he do this? Because I know that's a big thing with survivors, is the why.
Is the why?
For me, it was always, why didn't he allow me to help?
Yeah.
Why didn't he let me save him? That's what's hard for me.
Yeah.
That's the why for me.
Yeah. I honestly didn't even think of that being such an importance to somebody who's surviving that. What was your favorite thing about your husband?
His laugh, his smile. He was my best friend.
Yeah. And keeping his laughter going is by just continuing this foundation and growing the foundation into a national organization. Could you imagine that? When you
Great.
look back on this 10 years later and you do this little janky interview you did and you're
No,
like on
stop.
NBC and
Right,
you're
I'm
like
on Good Morning America.
60
Morning
minutes
Today.
and,
Come on.
you know,
That's
like,
the goal. That's the vision. I see it. It's on my vision board.
is it you do a vision board too?
It's in my mind.
Yeah.
But it's on the vision board in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough thing to go through. I can't imagine, but I feel like you've taken something that's been really difficult and turned into like a positive outlet, which I don't think most people would be able to do.
Yeah, I just have a certain way of looking at life. I had a very, very tough childhood. And I've always, I think resilience is my middle name, but I feel like I've always looked at life differently. Because I've always was like, what can I control? Well,
Was it because you had a tough upbringing?
think so. Yeah, I think so. And I decided at a very young age, what do I want out of life? Like I was 8 years old and I was like, okay, what can I control? Oh, I can control my education. So if I get a good education, then I will be able to do whatever I want in life and have that. No one can take that away from me, right? And so that's what I concentrated on when I was little. I just put all my energy into doing really well in school, and I was one of the first to go to college in my family, and
Because you could control that aspect.
I can control that aspect. And then I always thought, I'm not a woe is me kind of person. I've never have been. I can deal with no more pain. Like, I think we're good on that aspect of it. But I've always looked at, this is something that has happened to me. How can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? And what can I do with it? Mm-hmm. Right? And I think that's really important in life.
So through this whole process, what did you learn?
That people just want kindness, right? That it's important to live your life with love first, love and kindness. I think that's the most important thing.
Something from learn and grow. And how did you grow from this is creating the foundation to have some type of impact. But personally, how do you think you grew from this?
Personally, I think, surviving this, I can do anything, right? I can do anything.
The self-belief.
Yeah.
Is through the roof. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine. And I'm glad that we're gonna raise money for this. I think it's a great cause, and I'm glad there's people like you who are doing this, because this is a heavy burden to lift and a heavy thing to do.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. What are some things that you've learned during this whole long process?
In what aspect?
Like, from just like continuing on as a family, like how have you learned how to do that?
Well, I made the kids a huge promise. After my husband died, I pinky promised them all that I am not going anywhere, that I will always be here for them, that we are a unit, that we are a strong family, because we've always been a very close-knit family, and that, we're going to survive this, and we're going to try to live the best that we can. And I told them, Dad gets joy from us having joy, right? Like, he receives our joy. He doesn't want us broken and always crying. Well, let me say, there's a lot of tears, but
yeah.
Let's give him our joy. Let's show him our joy. He receives that from us. Mm-hmm. And I think giving my kids a different way to look at things has been very helpful for them, I think.
just trying to help them get like a new perspective on things? And is it just having that conversation of, I really like that line of like, he wants to see you guys be happy,
Yeah.
which I think ultimately is what anybody
Right.
would want,
Right.
It's heavy. It was heavy.
Yeah, I know.
Is there any misconceptions about coming over suicide grief that there might be out there?
I think it's interesting that people are very curious about it and want to know what happened, and did he struggle from mental? They ask all the questions, and I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that happened, and I can tell you, nope, he did not struggle from mental illness. I think it was medical. I could tell you all of these things. People's curiosity sometimes gets the best of them, I do have to say. And I think the misconceptions, that's a hard one. I haven't really encountered anything like, it's just hard. It's just a hard way of losing someone.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if there's
Arguably,
any
I think it's,
misconceptions around it.
I feel like it's the hardest way
Yeah.
to lose somebody. I mean, I don't know. It's never easy to lose somebody,
Yeah.
but I feel like when it's old age, there's a sense of peace, at least.
Yeah.
If it's cancer, it's not done by their own volition,
Right.
so it's like, it's a whole different
It is.
monster, Is there anything else you'd like to talk about, or anything that you want to promote?
I do the restorative yoga once a month.
What does that look like, restorative yoga?
The Catherine Hyatt, who does it, shout out. She is a therapist that does yoga instructing, and she leads the class. And it's not your typical yoga where you're doing down dog and all. It's not for exercise. It's really for you go into different positions, and it's to help with your grief.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's just different breathing techniques, different positions, and she talks you through it. It's only survivors in the class. She has tissues around, so if I've cried every session, and it's, I don't know, you just feel so different when you leave. It's just
I've heard of hot yoga. I've heard
Yeah.
of goat yoga, but
Yeah.
never
So
restorative yoga.
Yeah, restorative yoga. And it's not what you like if you look on YouTube and you do a yoga class and you're moving, and it's not that you're being very grounded and you're doing different positions very intentionally to release that grief. So you're in it for a while, and you're laying down a lot.
Do you do this once a month, or
Once a month.
Yeah. And how big is the class?
It's I think it could be up to 8 so far. I think we've had 6 people at max.
And these are all like,
all survivors.
wow,
Yeah.
holy cow.
Yeah. And then I love kickboxing down on the corner. I just met with that owner. We're going to do once a month kickboxing class on whatever Sunday, one Sunday at 8:00, and where survivors can come in, move, and I'll pick the music so it's not triggering in any kind of way, because that's hard. Because a couple of classes I had to excuse myself and go in the bathroom.
Is it the subject matter of the song,
Yeah,
or is
it
it
was just-
like a song that just reminds you of Tom?
It happened both.
Yeah.
It was like just a song that something about angels or whatever, and I lost it, and then there was just a song that like he really liked. It came on, and I was so new in the grief process that it was just too much.
I feel like, what did you say? It was a month after you started
Yeah,
kickboxing?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
it was just whew.
yeah.
it was heavy.
Hit you all at once.
Yeah, it hit me all at once. Because I don't think grief gets easier. I'm a year out. It just, you get used to it.
You just learn to live with
you
it.
learn to live with it. You may have less triggers. Excuse me. Therapy helps. So
Yeah. a long time ago, I heard that, I'll never forget it. It's a perfect analogy that grief is kind of like the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes you feel like you're treading water. And then there's some days where the waves are just too big. And then
crashing
other
over.
days where you're like, I'm bodyboarding, I'm body surfing on the waves, no problem,
Yeah.
hanging 10. And then all of a sudden you hear a song that reminds you of it and you feel like you're drowning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's,
And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a linear, it's definitely not linear. And there's not stages. People talk about stages. There's no stages. I just feel like it's just one of those things that.
I didn't feel stages either.
No, there's just not.
But I mean, I lost my grandfather in a completely different way, but I felt
still
like it was
grief,
just,
though,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I just think, it's tough. It's just really, it's tough. And you just have to figure out how to manage it and get through when the waves are over your head.
Yeah.
What are your coping mechanisms? What are your things that you can do to keep treading that water?
What are you the most proud of?
My kids, I think their resilience is just amazing, and their love is just everything.
I'll say I think what I appreciate the most about you is the fact that a lot of times when people lose someone, it's kind of becomes a railroad in their life. But I feel like you are grieving at the same time of like, how could I use this in a positive way?
Yeah.
Which I don't think many people do. I think a lot of people will stew on it and let it get the best of them and maybe not even find a way or a positive outlet for them. And even though you're like entrenched in it every day,
Yeah.
I feel like you're trying to use as a catalyst for change and positivity and and support for other people. So I think you should be proud of that too.
Right, it's who I am.
Yeah. Oh, it was heavy.
Yeah.
I'm crying now.
I
Holy
know,
shit. Yeah. I think I'm exhausted out of all of my questions. I don't think I have anything else.
I just think my website, I will always be updating it. The more I add, like the art therapy and the different things that I'm going to add in the future, the support groups.
What's the website, by the way?
The CUS Foundation.org.
And we'll put it in the show description below. So
Great.
whoever's listening or watching, you can go to the website. It'll be in the description. They can click right to
Perfect.
it. Yeah.
Yep. And you can buy merch, you can donate, and you can get all the resources right on there.
Cool.
So,
And the dungeon donation panel, we're doing the stream where we're going to hopefully raise some good money for
that's great.
your foundation. I'm excited. We'll talk about
Yeah.
some cool things. I think I would talk to the guys, but I would love to have you on the stream
Yeah.
for like 5 minutes before we kick
Absolutely.
off to like talk about
Yeah.
about it, and then at least give you an opportunity to present it
Yeah.
to others. And now that we have this, we have something that we can
Yeah.
kind of use to help talk about, because it is a new foundation.
Right.
And I want to share with people what
Yeah.
exactly it is that
Yeah.
you do. So
And I had told Dennis, like, I know you guys might be doing it in person too. Is there like something?
yeah, there'll
that
be
you
an
guys-
in-person event we
I
usually
don't
do.
mind
Yeah.
coming to that. You
All right,
know,
cool.
if that's something you guys want me at.
Are you gonna play D&D with us?
I don't know how, but one of the things that we did in Lake George, we had a game day and we had like all types of games. And my son, the 22, almost 23-year-old, on his iPad put everybody's name, and we're like, we're gonna, have this contest. And I was like 30 points ahead.
You're too competitive, Bets.
I really am. So I don't know if you want me, because like I'll just beat
D&D
everybody.
is not a competitive game. It's
okay,
story collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never
think
played,
you'd
but
like
I
it.
probably would like it.
Yeah, I think
I'm
you'd
a
like
very sci-fi kind of girl.
Oh, yeah.
To like into all of that stuff. So
Yeah, perfect fit then. Perfect. Well, thanks for doing this. I appreciate your
Thank you.
time. And
I
thanks for sharing your
appreciate you
story. It
having me.
was hard to hear, but I think it's not something that gets really talked about very much. I think it's, like you said earlier, it becomes a taboo subject where either A, people are afraid to ask, or B, people maybe go a little too hard and push for too much info.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.